Hi guys, it's Nicole and it's the first of the month, so it is the hop that I am hosting in which we are all playing along with the new Creating with Sketches sketch class book bundle designed by Allison Davis, available at Scrapbook Generation. I will link it down below. This is May 1st, so we are doing the one-page sketch number 5. My first modification is going to be changing it into a 2-page sketch, and I do want to point out something kind of funny. This strip that I'm cutting down right here, I don't know it at the time. It's the last piece I have of this, so I'm making sure to find the center, cut it in half, with the intention to use one piece on the left and one piece on the right. Clearly, I thought I knew what was going on as I'm laying them out. As we go along, you will quickly see that I goofed pretty bad, and we can kind of talk about fixes that you can do, the fix that I chose to do. Basically, I started cutting strips based off the variation that I was following along. So again, this is the one page number 5. I'm already modifying it into a 2-page sketch, and I'm basically following along with option number 26. So if you have this bundle, you can kind of reference that. And I do make some changes based on, it's kind of like when you change one thing, you have to really pay attention because your spacing is going to change, your math is going to change. And a lot of times I don't pay attention when I change something, so that's kind of when issues happen. Now, originally I thought I was going to do a mix of like blues and grays and blacks for my strips. I was not loving these light gray hearts. They're fine. I just wasn't loving the overall look. So I kind of kept going back into my stash and trying to find things. I thought, oh, I've got to have more of this blue. You guys, this blue for some reason is so hard to find. And like I said, I only had the one sheet of Doodlebug that happens to be in this color. Now here, see, I grabbed the piece that's supposed to go to the right page. I flipped it over to the plaid and I'm like, oh, I like this. I still don't like the gray, but I really like these 3 of the petite prints in this blue color. I've not realized that I've used a piece that's supposed to go on the right. I'm also, because I don't know why I do this, but even on a double page layout, I tend to work on them like one page at a time, even when there is a design that's going to go all the way across. And I think that's where I can kind of run into issues. But at this point, I'm clueless. I don't know. I went back to my Doodlebug stash and decided to pull in this lighter blue. It's going to offer me a contrast. It's going to give me a little bit more interest. And basically, I needed to find something that was going to span this large section on the left and still give me a leftover piece that's going to kind of mimic this layer over on the right. But I only need a small piece of it. I don't need to like wallpaper the whole right, so I don't really need 2 sheets of it. I just need a small enough kind of piece to make it look like it's gonna go over there. So this is when I'm realizing that my math is a little bit off, and I think my math is off because I've already moved everything down significantly. This sketch, like one of the main elements of this sketch is this gorgeous like icon border. The sketch shows florals. I knew kind of immediately when I saw it that I wanted to do some kind of a scene. In this instance, I went with cheer. Sorry to those of you who I asked in a poll on my Facebook group about doing like Halloween or Mario themed. I kind of forgot that that was my idea with this, and by the time I sat down, like I went like a whole other direction and was like, yeah, let's do cheer. So, but I will say that a lot of the sketches that I'm finding myself drawn to use this like floral edge. It was on the free sketch from SCT magazine that I did the like fun painter art single page layout for my daughter. Same kind of concept of switching out the florals for some sort of die cut zine. So at this point, I'm happy with my pattern papers. I tell you guys all the time, I feel like settling on a set of papers that I like the cohesiveness of, that takes me a long time, and it's just because I'm naturally indecisive, and I feel like I can't move on until my brain is satisfied and says, yes, these work together, we like this, move on. So from there, I went ahead and I did trace pencil lines. I don't really follow the same structure. Maybe structure is not the right word. Sometimes I draw a line. Sometimes I just wing it with a ruler. Sometimes I will do both. I'll draw a line and use a ruler to kind of guide myself. I kind of switch it up. I use this tiny little piercing mat that I really need to replace. I'm kind of mad at myself. I was actually chatting with Lisa Brooks about stitching on layouts. She was asking me what paper piercer I use, and of course I can't find it. It's somewhere in my room. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I don't love this Tim Holtz one, but use what you have kind of a thing. There's a couple that we saw on Amazon. I think she ordered one. I might go ahead and try some of the other ones that we saw in there. I like a small one. It's just my preference. Now, look, this is where I figured out I messed up, because I tore apart my room for like 30 minutes. I'm like, where's this strip of paper? I used it, both sides of it. So thank you to Amazon for being able to send me another pack with this single sheet of paper inside of it within one day. Do what you gotta do. Normally I would never do that. I would never be like, oh, honestly, I would have just filled in the gap with my photos and moved on. But knowing that I have, these photos are from this event in 2022, and I have the same event that happened in 2023. So it's going to be the same colors, and I know I'll end up using it. So not a big deal. Plus, I mean, it's tone on tones. I'll find a use for them. I didn't have some of the other colors that were in this pack. So win-win. So I went ahead and filled in my strips here. I did measure this opening. Thank you to the people that were in a Facebook group that were talking about, they were asking for suggestions for people that use photo collages, and Lisa was nice enough to tag me to send people to my channel. I had photo collages on the back of my brain because I had been linking videos to respond to that. And at first I was like, man, this is going to suck having to do the photo math because the photos on the sketch are 5x3s. I've already kind of messed up that sizing. It's going to be weird. And then it dawned on me. I was like, wait, this is approximately like 5x10. I know 100% I could find a Carrie Bradford photo template that is roughly that area. And I don't have to do the photo math because it's already been done for me. And I can drag and drop my photos in here. And then in this instance, I got, I think, an extra one than what I normally would have gotten. So planets aligned in that moment. Gonna go ahead and fill in that space. And like I said, you can see way over on the right, I just used a scrap. So it's gonna look like that light blue spans, even though it doesn't. On the left side, I am following the 3 4x4 photos that are over there. It does have like a horizontal photo tucked underneath. I chose to make mine a square that just kind of fit the selfie of me and my daughter a little bit better. And then back to being indecisive. There was more photos that I wanted to use, and I was like, how can we kind of squeeze these in without it being like too much? And I decided to size them small enough to tuck them into the scene that's going to go on the top border as well. I felt like it would break up the stamped images that I'm planning on using, the die cut stars that I'm planning on using, and it's going to just kind of fill in even more of that die cut border. It's going to bring in more photos, and it's going to kind of help the photo aspect of things spread more to the top of the layout, I guess is what I want to say. Plus, I just like it. Sometimes I do things because I like it. And like I say many, many times, I don't like when things move around. It bugs me, and it's because I'm a mess. I can't keep things like neat. So if I've made a decision about something, I go ahead and attach it. I did edit out a lot of me trying different alphas, mixtures of stickers, dies, until I kind of settled on what I thought I wanted to use. Basically, my title is going to be We Are the Wolfpack. I'm like 90% sure that's one of the cheers that they were like chanting for the hour and a half that we were there. My daughter wasn't even 100% sure, but that's what we're going to go with. I don't love the title combination that I came up with, but again, it was one of those things of like, use what you have. I thought for sure, because I have a lot of the Doodlebug petite print patterns and I have a lot of the Doodlebug alphas, that the colors would be the same. I'm not sure if the like tiny type stickers that I have are just an older version of this blue, or if it's a completely different blue, but it didn't match. So then that kind of just set me off. So then I was like, well, I'd really like to use the white with the black text. Didn't have enough letters for that, so I settled on the black with the white text. It's one of those things where it's like, use what you can find. Don't get bogged down in constantly digging through your stuff trying to figure out something that's going to work. It did make me kind of kick myself because there was a stamp set that makes small letters that as soon as it came out, I was like, oh, I want to order that. I forgot to order it. So had I ordered it when I first thought, oh, this would be good to make like tiny tiles out of, I would have already had it in my stash and it would have been fun to incorporate. We'll do that another time. For now, we're going to use these super old Doodlebug stickers that are in my stash. Now, if you've been here for a hot minute, you know I like to make my own titles. You know I like stacking 3 layers of cardstock, and then the 4th layer is going to be pattern paper or a glitter paper, something like that. It's basically DIY thickers that I lovingly refer to as dickers, and they make me happy. I like that I don't run into the issue of running out of letters, and I like that I can almost always find a way to make my letters match my layout, because I'm either using coordinating pattern paper that I've used on the layout, or like in my previous video, I ink blended my title and was able to kind of lean into my theme, go with a specific color theme, that type of thing. So I just use scraps of the white cardstock that I print my journaling on. Once I cut my journaling off, I just throw those scraps in a sheet protector, and it literally sits like to the top left of what you guys are seeing. It sits there to where I can just easily grab it. And yeah, I like 3 layers of white and then the layer on top. This specific font is the one that I will say, if you want to stitch through something like this is the one to go with. I feel like you have enough space to pierce the holes without damaging the letter. But when I do stitching through letters, which I almost thought about doing today, but I was like, no, we don't have time for that, I will do one less layer just for the sake of getting the needle through all those layers. This is kind of like the meat of my, like, what was in my brain was I wanted to do a big scene with these. I wanted to stamp some of those phrases, like make some noise, bring it on. I thought it would be cute to stamp some of those in like the blue and the black, and then use my scan and cut to cut them out, because there's no dies that match those. You guys, I've used my scan and cut once, and now it tells me that the mat doesn't belong to the machine, but the mat came with the machine. I've gone down like a rabbit hole. I need to do some maintenance on the machine, basically. Didn't have time for that today. So again, we're just going to nix that idea, and we're going to fill in the scene with die cut stars and photos. Not everything that like, not every idea that sparks in my brain is going to work when it comes to the execution, and I've learned to just kind of move on. Now, I'm not going to show you guys the whole like coloring because one, I'm not the person you want to come to for Copic coloring skills. I just kind of do what I can. I did not have this stinking color of blue in my Copic markers, and then I reminded myself that I had just purchased a whole pack of these markers. So I don't know, they're from Amazon. My daughter had the perfect color, so I borrowed 2 of her markers to be able to do all the uniforms on the cheerleaders. She was a little upset and offended until I reminded her that we bought the markers because she kept stealing my Copics and using them. So fair is fair. I stole the 2 colors I needed for a couple days and I gave them back. And I was like, you know what? I'm sorry, but you had the right colors, and until I can sit down and figure out the equivalent of this in Copics and get those ordered, I'm going to keep borrowing them. So again, I'm not the person to go to for like coloring advice. I just do my best. Pinterest and Google and YouTube is my friend. I will look up color combinations. So I didn't want everybody, like all these little girls, to look the same. So I would look up different skin tone combinations. I don't have like a ton of Copic markers, so I tend to just kind of make it work the best I can. I try to find things that are close enough and kind of call it good. But I did leave some of this in. Basically, I think I stamped like 3 panels full of images, and this one was like my test where I was testing color combinations to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, what would work. And then I would make notes of which markers I was doing the combos of, if that makes sense. So the majority, like that, the group of the girls, I didn't end up using that one because I was testing out a bunch of different blues, but they were a good like image to test hair combinations, skin combinations, that type of thing. And once I had a combination that I liked and it worked, I just kind of repeated it. I tried to mix up hair colors, tried to mix up skin tones, kind of tried to make everybody look a little different. Because when you look at this giant sea of cheerleaders, you've got just this beautiful mix of people. You've got all the high school girls. You've got all these, they call them bigs and littles. So the high school girls were bigs and the elementary school girls were the littles. It's basically like a community fundraising thing that they do in the fall every year where they have a clinic and you go learn like a routine, you learn some of the cheers, and then you show up the following Friday to the game and you get a t-shirt and you go find your cheerleader that you are paired up with and you get to cheer for the first half of the football game. And I don't know, it's the cutest thing ever. And I think this was the first one that we went to, and I think she really caught the bug. Knowing that I've got the same event next year was kind of what made me pull the trigger on ordering this waffle flower stamp set, because I knew I would get some use out of it. And then she also just tried out for middle school cheer and made the team. So I need to kind of, if you know any like good cheer themed stuff, comment down below and let me know. I'm definitely going to get a ton of use out of this stamp set. I already have like more ideas for things that I want to do and, you know, ways to use that stamp set, but I kind of want to see what else is out there. So with that, I am almost done with like not the boring part of the layout, but the paper and stuff. And I'm going to move on to working on the big like die cut scene border at the top. Now, like I said, originally I was going to use my scan and cut to scan and cut all these because I didn't have the dies. Once I realized I did not have the mental space to argue with it, basically this summer I'm going to figure it out. Again, Amazon being my best friend came in handy and sent me the dies to this stamp set within like 2 days. So, and honestly, I prefer the dies. I think sometimes the sticker shock is what gets me, and just knowing how much use I'm going to get out of this stamp set, I was like, honestly, it's worth it to just get the dies and have them. So here you can see I've got my 3 small photos. These are about 1.5 by 2, maybe 1.5 by 2.5, and I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of start filling in with my little cheerleaders. And then I had die cut a bunch of stars from those same Doodlebug papers, and I kind of start with the bigger pieces and spreading them out based on like the color, and just kind of start filling in, seeing how I like things. If I like it, I leave it. I try not to have things kind of moving around too much. And then once I like kind of where everything is at, I will use my phone and I just take photos to remind myself of where things are. Because like I said, I'm messy. If I bump this and everything scatters, now I'm just irritated. And then this way, if a bunch of stuff moves, I can refer to my phone, kind of like the floral frame layout that I posted. I can refer to the photos to figure out where things go. This instance, everything was pretty decent sized, so I could kind of just start with the stuff that was layered behind first and put some glue behind it, and then kind of shimmy it back underneath and kind of just work my way back to front. And then as I go, I like to try to find something heavy to just kind of hold it down so that things don't curl as they're drying. I also try to use like just enough liquid glue that it's going to attach to this textured cardstock, but not too much that you're going to have that like rippling effect. So I try to find the happy medium when I'm using liquid glue. I don't put liquid glue behind the photos because I'm using like economy type of photo paper, so it's not like super thick, and I don't want the liquid to make like the colors run or have you be able to see it through the photo. So my photos, I always just use ATG. And so yeah, I just kind of work my way across and get everything attached. I will say and apologize, I either didn't hit record or I accidentally deleted the final step that I ended up doing, which was the teeny tiny stacked stars. You guys have seen me use hearts a bunch. I use stars a bunch. I keep everything kind of in the same container, but basically I do the same thing. I cut 3 layers of white cardstock, and then the final top layer is going to be scraps from the layout. And it's just basically giving me a variation in the size of the stars and a method to mix in more color and just another layer to the scene. So like with my scenes, I've told you guys this before, I try to work back to front. Originally, I think I thought I was going to do like a stenciled background, but I ended up just deciding to leave it white and just kind of save myself a step. But I tend to work back to front, and I tend to work like largest size shapes down to the smallest. And I do like to have some kind of a tiny embellishment, whether it's wood veneer stars, sequins, little tiny stacked hearts, enamel dots, that type of thing. I like to be able to sprinkle in and just kind of fill in the gaps. And like I said, add more color and more interest. My journaling, I just typed it up on Google Docs, sized it to the space that I had. I did ink the edges in blue Distress Oxide ink. I didn't want to fight myself to find like a pattern paper to layer behind it. I was like, this is just going to be easy and we're going to move on. Now, I knew from the get-go that I was going to want some sort of delineating line up here. to separate my scene from my photos. To me, this is just sort of the finishing touch. It's going to hide any like weird stuff that's tucked in, and to me it's that finishing edge that just kind of makes everything feel like done. I like having my scenes to have like a shelf or an edge to kind of rest against. I think it gives it like a good delineation between the areas of the layout. So here's, like I was saying, these clips are still in here. It's just me gluing them onto the actual layout that I don't have the footage of, but you can see them in the final photos. I like to keep any of the white layers that I've already like stacked and glued together. I just keep them in a bag so that the next time I use them, it's a little bit less work. Knowing how many stars I was probably going to want to use today, I went ahead and made more of the layers. And I have a couple different sets. One is a star confetti set from Mama Elephant that makes 2 different sizes, but I believe it's retired because I haven't been able to find it. And then this set has 3 size stars and 3 size hearts, and I want to say it's from Lawn Fawn. When I go to do my YouTube upload is when I tend to go looking for everything that I've used in the video to try to be able to link it to you guys. But this is such a basic shape. Typically they're called confetti. So if you're looking, I tend to type in confetti in the search bar on like an online shop to figure out who's got a current one, kind of a thing. So with that, here I've got the photo of the completed layout and then some detail shots, and in the detail shots is where you're going to be able to see those tiny little stars and all of that goodness. So as always, I thank you guys for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. I know that this was a longer video, but I couldn't really figure out what parts to cut out, and typically when I do scene building is when I get a lot of questions. As a reminder, this is part of a hop. All links in the description, and supplies and my Facebook group, all that stuff. Catch you guys later.